Good afternoon, everyone. It's just right about noon, and we're in a very foggy Conneaut Harbor. And what I was expecting to be able to bring to you was a shot of two giants. But unfortunately, it is very, very foggy out there. And there are two giants in this shot, but one is completely covered by the fog. The Walter J McCaffrey, the 1,000-footer, just pulled out, and I'm going to probably butcher this name, but I'll have it in the title. The Assiniboine, yeah, I can't make this stuff up, is the one that we can actually see the top of, getting ready to pull in. You'll see a smaller fishing boat about to head out here. It's in the frame. In the Conneaut Lighthouse in the background there. And the Canadian steamer there that's 666 feet long is about to pull into Conneaut Harbor. It is just a very, very foggy day. So much so my camera's even having trouble adjusting and getting the view. It's December 2nd, 2023. You can see a lot of birds out here, surprisingly. A lot of seagulls, a lot of waterfowl. So I was going to get a shot of two of the giants there, but unfortunately the temperature here in Conneaut has went up to about, the air temperature is about 53 degrees. The lake temperature is in the upper 40s and very still. And unfortunately, that is the perfect combination for heavy fog. We had a lot of rainy weather here, and just after a heavy snowfall. It's also all those conditions combined. It's just a perfect day to be foggy and gloomy. But this is typical. Lake Erie creates along here what's called a microclimate. And it's actually very amazing. I mean, that's why we get the snowfall we get. It's called lake effect snow. There's actually overhead on the radar, we're showing what looked like some lake effect rain. However, it's just fog showing up in actual person. So this is the ship is now starting to pull in. So I'll be able to get a better view of it coming up here. Again, this is a Canadian self-unloader. They're called. Yesterday, the Walter J McCaffrey, it came pulling into Conneaut Harbor at about the worst time for me possible. First of all, it was during a pretty heavy rainstorm, but it was also right when it was time for me to pick my daughter up for school, and something I can't cancel or get away from. And by the time we got home, the ship was already docked. So I thought I was going to be able to catch it pulling out and the Canadian steamer pulling in at the same time. However, the fog kind of prevented that. So it was late in the season, and Conneaut Harbor is still pretty busy. There's a lot of fishermen down here today, which is actually, I don't know, it's kind of surprising to me, but I'm not an expert on that, what they're fishing for. There's some of the waves coming in from the fishing boat. I'm actually surprised people still have those out on December 2nd. So there's quite a few people behind me here. A couple of boat watchers and some fishermen. Try to stay away from them while I'm videoing. Otherwise, Lake Erie's pretty still. And there's not much wind, which again, that's the perfect conditions for the fog. As the ship is starting to come into view. And the Walter J McCaffrey just headed back to Two Harbors, Minnesota, all the way up on the western end of Lake Superior. That's where it actually came from. And this Canadian steamer coming in, its last stop was in Detroit. Now this Canadian steamer here at 666 feet, it's big enough to fit through the Welland Canal. So this one is usually on, it's been seen on all 5 Great Lakes. I have not seen this one dock in Conneaut in recent times, but I don't catch every single one. But this one is not one of the regular visitors. Usually the big 1,000-footers are your main regular ones. In the background you can hear a train whistle. That's pretty much commonplace in Conneaut. There is very hard to escape the train whistles, as we have 3 sets of train tracks and 2 rail yards. And that sounds like a CSX train, if I'm not mistaken. So that's what Conneaut is, and I'm losing focus for some reason. I'm not sure why. It's struggling to focus on it. I think it's because of the fog. Conneaut is this beautiful mix of this beautiful nature, woodlands, Conneaut Creek, and Lake Erie, with the industry of railroads and gigantic ships, and some factories in there too. Trying to get the camera somehow to stabilize here. It's just not wanting to cooperate with the fog. So I looked, this ship here was built in 1977. It's a Canadian owned steamer. And we're late in the shipping season. They don't usually do many of these come December. I guess it depends on some of the weather conditions, because this can be a very dangerous time sailing on the Great Lakes too with the weather. It was this is December 2nd, but it was November when the Edmund Fitzgerald sunk in a storm on Lake Superior. So some of the storms on the Great Lakes can get vicious this time of year. Not to mention with the cold weather, there's icing and all kinds of other conditions that can just make it a little bit more difficult. So the shipping season closes, and they sometimes will run all the way to the end of January, weather pending. We've had 2 snowfalls in Conneaut this year. The last one was a good sized one, a 7-inch, about 7 inches. A little bit south of here, got over a foot out in Monroe Township. In Pierpont, they got in the 1 foot area, but up here along the lake shore, it was about 7 inches. And it was a lake effect event. And that's typical for this time of year. And we actually have, for December, some pretty mild weather forecasted. It's going to be wet, but above average temperatures. And I'm a snow lover, okay? Especially this, when we get into the Christmas season, I want snow. I love having a white Christmas. But it's not looking good right now for Conneaut to have a white Christmas. We on average do have a white Christmas, but we don't every year. And we've had times where you've had huge November snowfalls and it melt off by Christmas. Because a lot of the times in Conneaut, you say if you don't like the weather, stand by, wait 5 minutes, it's going to change. And because Lake Erie creates this microclimate, this time of year, us here along within a couple miles even of the lake shore, temperature could be significantly warmer up here and cooler in inlands like south of town, like Monroe Township, Jefferson, the south of I-90 part. So we end up a little bit warmer this time of year, whereas in the spring, because of the temperature of the lake shore can be significantly colder in the spring. So it creates this microclimate, and that's why this area is very good for grape growing. So, and we have lots of vineyards in Conneaut in the northeast Ohio region, Geneva especially. Lake Erie makes its own weather and changes the whole environment. And there's some of the other areas along the Great Lakes that do that. The downwind areas of the Great Lakes create this microclimate. And it's the same reason you see like some areas in New York State are very good wine growing areas, Pennsylvania too, along Lake Erie. It's very good for grape growing because of the microclimate that the lakes provide. So, and it's funny how still it is, and visibility is very low. And I'm going to pan away and show you here because there's a little fishing vessel right over here. And I hope he moves the heck out of the way of this giant ship that really can't see him because of the fog. So I love getting these ship videos in, especially while I can, and it being December 2nd and nearly 50 degrees is abnormal. So I got to take advantage of this while I can. Late in the season, we usually have this big pause through the winter time of the port shutting down for the winter season. So it was funny when I was driving down here, you could barely see the tops of these two ships over the fog. That fog has really reduced the visibility down. When I'm looking at the lighthouse there, that is less than a mile from me. And as you can see, you can't even see the base of it. You can see the top part of it sticking up. That fog's hovering lower level on the lake. A lot of it, there's some up in the air too, but from the water level to about 10 feet up, there is this layer of fog. And this is very common when we have the air temperature warm up after a lot of snow and a lot of rain, and you'll have the water and land temperatures different. Either this time of year it would be colder than the air. It creates this fog. In the springtime we get a lot of the times the opposite way, where the land and water temperature may warm up past the air temperature, and it creates this fog. And you can see as this ship is coming in here, too, you really can't see some of the base because of the fog, but it does look like it's high in the water, which means it's probably coming here to pick up a load. The Walter J McCaffrey that just came in dropped off a load. I checked where it was docked at. It was dropping off a load of iron ore from Two Harbors, Minnesota. And a lot of times, I mean, you don't quite understand the size of these ships until you get right up by them. And you see, I mean, in the foreground, this little fishing boat that is maybe 10 feet long. It's a little dinky one. If you just look at that as comparison to that ship, this guy can't get above the fog. His head is not sitting above the fog. Again, I got a lot of people behind me, a lot of them coming to watch the ships come in. There's a lot of ship watchers here, which is, I mean, that's kind of nice. That's good, that's what I like. Hopefully they check out my video. So as I reported the other day and put a video on there, there was a bear that came through the neighborhood that was pretty much less than a half mile from where I'm standing. Again, no woods and no waterway close by for it. The bear are getting their last meals in before hibernation, and they become very aggressive. They come into different areas. They love to grab bird feeders and trash cans this time of year. And they, out of desperation, will come in out of their normal areas to grab and fatten up. So they get very aggressive. The black bear, for the most part, are pretty skittish around people this time of year. They're a little bolder because of they need to fatten up for the hibernation. In springtime, when they come out, it's the mama bears you got to worry about. If you got to find mama bear with her cubs, it's a dangerous situation. Ship is now that it's inside the harbor, it is going to turn around and back into the dock. It came in head first, but most of the ships will turn around outside of the lighthouse, outside of the harbor break walls, and back in. This one, because it's a little bit smaller than the normal giants that come in here, it's small enough to do its maneuver inside the harbor walls. Getting the long ways, the side view of the ship. Before it gets over to me. The ship's for loading purpose, always back into the Conneaut Harbor, into the Conneaut Creek. Just an easier positioning for them to either pick up and load or offload. And it's kind of like to, like if you live on a busy street, you try to back into your driveway so you don't have the problems getting out of your driveway, so that you can just pull straight out. And that's what they do when they leave. They're able to pull straight out. It's a good view of this giant, 666 feet long. View of that, you know, there's just not a better view right now, and visibility, unfortunately, is just not that good. And it is kind of misting rain a little bit. See, you can barely see the tip of the lighthouse over the end of the boat. Surprisingly, there's still a lot of birds, a lot of waterfowl around. I think most of them would fly south at this point, but some of this is just, I mean, I just like watching these. Again, it's like a camera is struggling to focus in because of that fog. It keeps blurring. I see it keep trying to refocus. So you can't see the bottom of the ship at all. You can't see the water line on the ship. And that fog is actually hovering about probably close to 10 feet off the ground. Or sorry, not off the ground, off the water. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to watch this dock. I wanted to get what I could of this ship trying to turn around in here. What this is going to do is dock, and it looks like it's going to be picking up a load of either stone or iron ore, and I'm not sure which. This is not one of the normal customers. Looks like it's going to take a little bit for this to turn around and get itself positioned. A lot of those are all waterfowl. Those are all like ducks flying in front of us right now. Ducks or loons, some type of waterfowl. I'm going to pan over. I want to show you the little fishing boat out here. You can barely see him. He's still at the same distance. He hasn't went any further out, but you can just barely make him out. The camera can't even focus on him. Alright, well, my view does not look like it's going to get any better. The visibility is not going to be changing anytime soon. And it looks like the ship it's either barely moving. Yeah, it's moving still, just barely, and then it's going to back in here to the harbor. But I want to thank you for joining me, for watching all the way to the end. like, subscribe, and share. Send this around, comment on it. Tell me if you like this. These ships are just amazing to me, and I enjoy videoing them. I enjoy coming down to watch them. So I just want to thank you. And tell you God bless you. We're in the Christmas season, so I want to say Merry Christmas. Enjoy the days, enjoy the time that we have. Make sure that you spend time with your family. Enjoy this season. Enjoy the blessings of being an American and all the good things that come with it. Okay. I want to tell you, be on your toes. Watch out for bad guys, and if you see bad people doing bad stuff, don't ignore it, don't walk away, and don't just video it. Call the police, do something. Evil only prevails when good people do nothing. During this holiday season, you need to have love for each other, love for this country. Okay, that's my little speech for the day. Alright, I want to thank you. God bless you, and have a wonderful day.